What if I told you one night changed everything? August 9th, 2019, New York City. The city never really sleeps, but on this particular night, most people were tucked in their beds, dreaming ordinary dreams. Nobody knew that by morning, one headline would crack the entire country wide open. Deep inside the Metropolitan Correctional Center, a federal jail in the heart of Manhattan, a man was found dead in his cell. His name was Jeffrey Epstein, and he was no ordinary prisoner. From the outside, this man's life looked like a fairy tale, but fairy tales have monsters. On the outside, Jeffrey Epstein looked like a dream. A $600 million fortune, a private island in the Caribbean, 75 acres of paradise surrounded by the sea, a private jet, mansions in New York, Florida, New Mexico, and Paris. His phone contacts read like a who's who of the most powerful people on earth: presidents, princes, billionaires, Nobel Prize winners. But behind that glittering life was something dark, something so disturbing that even hardened investigators struggled to believe it was real. Jeffrey Epstein was accused of being one of the most prolific child sex traffickers in American history. And when he died in that jail cell, just weeks before he was set to name names, the entire world started asking the same question: did he really kill himself, or was he silenced? Every monster has an origin story. This one starts in Brooklyn. To understand how this happened, we need to go back to the beginning. January 20th, 1953, Brooklyn, New York. Jeffrey Edward Epstein was born into a working-class Jewish family. From early on, his teachers noticed something about him. The kid was sharp, unnervingly sharp, especially in math and science. By his teaching job at one of New York's most elite private schools, the Dalton School, without even finishing his college degree. He taught physics and mathematics, but it didn't last long. Within 2 years, the school let him go. The official reason? Unsatisfactory performance. But whispers told a different story. Inappropriate behavior around underage female students, flirting, attending student parties where alcohol was involved. For most people, getting fired from a prestigious school without a degree would be the end of the road. For Epstein, it was just the beginning. He lost everything. Then somehow, he gained even more. After being shown the door at Dalton, Epstein somehow walked straight into Bear Stearns, one of the most powerful investment banks on Wall Street. He started at the bottom, but he climbed fast. Within a few years, he became a limited partner at just 27. Cosmopolitan magazine named him Bachelor of the Month. But old habits die hard. Epstein got caught charging expensive gifts for his girlfriend to the company's accounts. Bear Stearns suspended him and slapped him with a heavy fine. So he did what every disgraced banker does. He started his own firm. He called it the Intercontinental Assets Group, helping wealthy clients recover money stolen by fraudulent brokers. Then came J. Epstein and Company, which had a golden rule: we only work with people worth over $1 billion. By 1984, he was a millionaire. By the mid-1990s, his fortune was closing in on $600 million. The man with no degree had become one of the most powerful financial figures in America. And with that power came access. Access to the most influential people alive. What happens on the island was never supposed to leave the island. By the late 1990s, Epstein's world looked like something out of a movie. In 1998, he purchased a private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands, Little St. James. 75 acres, turquoise water, white sand. A place where the most powerful people in the world came to party. His social circle included sitting and former U.S. presidents, British royalty, billionaires, and scientists whose names you'd find in textbooks. He flew them there on his private Boeing 727, a plane that would later become infamous, nicknamed by survivors as the Lolita Express. But here's what the guests at those parties never expected the world to find out. That island wasn't just a playground for the rich. It was a crime scene. It started with one mother, one brave phone call, one shaking voice. March 2005, Palm Beach, Florida. A mother walks into a police station shaking. She tells officers that a wealthy man, Jeffrey Epstein, had lured her 14-year-old daughter to his mansion under the pretense of giving her a massage. What happened inside that house was anything but a massage. The police started investigating. They found one victim. Then she led them to two more. Those two led to more, then more. By the time detectives were done pulling the thread, they had identified 36 victims, all underage girls, mostly between 13 and 18 years old. The scheme worked like a sick pyramid. Epstein would pay a girl to bring him another girl. That girl would bring another, and on it went. He wasn't working alone either. His girlfriend, British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell, was his chief recruiter. She targeted vulnerable young girls from difficult backgrounds, promising them modeling careers or quick cash in exchange for massages. What they walked into was something far worse. In July 2006, Epstein was arrested. Justice was supposed to win here. It didn't. This is where the story takes a turn that's hard to stomach. The FBI built a 53-page case against Epstein, 36 victims, dozens of witnesses, detailed evidence of international child trafficking. Everyone expected him to go to prison for the rest of his life. Instead, he got 18 months. Behind closed doors, Miami federal attorney Alexander Acosta had struck a secret deal with Epstein's high-powered lawyers. Most of the federal charges simply disappeared. He was convicted of only 2 minor state prostitution charges. Worse, the court referred to the underage victims as prostitutes, even though under Florida law, the legal age of consent is 18. And he didn't even serve his full sentence in a regular jail. He stayed in a private wing of Palm Beach County Jail with luxury facilities and was allowed to leave for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, to work from his office. After just 13 months, 5 months early, he walked free. The man who trafficked dozens of children went home to his mansions, and the world didn't know because the deal was kept secret, even from the victims. The system failed. But one woman refused to accept that. For years, it seemed like Epstein had gotten away with it. Then, in 2016, a reporter named Julie K. Brown of the Miami Herald decided she wasn't going to let this story stay buried. She dug into sealed court records. She tracked down silenced witnesses. She re-examined closed files. And when the hashtag #MeToo movement exploded in October 2017, something shifted. Women who had been afraid to speak were suddenly speaking. Epstein's victims started sharing their stories on social media. Julie Brown found them, one by one. More than 80 survivors. Some gave her video interviews. Some spoke over the phone, voices trembling. One of them was Virginia Giuffre, who said she was recruited by Ghislaine Maxwell at just 16 years old. Virginia later alleged that Epstein had trafficked her to multiple powerful men, including Prince Andrew of Britain, who she said had sexual contact with her on 3 separate occasions. In November 2018, Julie Brown's investigation, Perversion of Justice, was published in the Miami Herald. The world erupted. Second chance. Last chance. The world was watching. Public outrage was impossible to ignore this time. The FBI reopened its investigation. On July 6, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was arrested again, this time on federal sex trafficking charges involving minors. He tried his old tricks. He attempted to buy his way out of the justice system. This time, it didn't work. He was denied bail and sent to the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City. He was facing up to 45 years in prison. And everyone, survivors, journalists, investigators, the public, was holding their breath, waiting for the moment Epstein would finally name the powerful people who had joined him in his crimes. That moment never came. One morning, one dead body, and 100 questions nobody could answer. August 10th, 2019. Just 34 days after his arrest, Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his jail cell. Jail officials called it suicide by hanging, but the medical examiner's report told a different story. Multiple bones in Epstein's neck were broken, injuries that forensic experts said are far more common in strangulation than in hanging. And then came the coincidences. The 2 guards assigned to monitor Epstein that night had both fallen asleep at the same time. The security cameras outside his cell had malfunctioned. When footage was finally released by authorities, it contained an unexplained 1-minute gap. An earlier suicide attempt just weeks prior had gone largely uninvestigated. For millions of people, this wasn't a coincidence. It was a cover-up. Epstein, they believed, had been silenced before he could talk. And the burning question remained: who was on his client list? Just when you thought this story couldn't get any more complicated, it did. Then came a new shock. In April 2025, just 3 months after Trump's return to the presidency, Virginia Giuffre, one of the most vocal survivors, died suddenly. Social media exploded. And then Elon Musk, once a Trump ally, posted something that poured fuel on the fire. He suggested Trump's own name appeared in the Epstein Files, implying that was the real reason the documents weren't being released. Suddenly, the story that had started with one man's death in a jail cell had touched former presidents, sitting presidents, billionaires, royals, and Nobel Prize winners. Released documents referenced many famous names in connection with Epstein, but references don't equal proven guilt. That's something important to remember. What is certain is this: decades of abuse happened. Dozens of young girls were hurt, and a system of power protected the man responsible for far too long. The Epstein story isn't really about one man. It's about how money buys silence, how power protects itself, how systems designed to deliver justice can be quietly bent by the very people who fund them. It's about the 80-plus survivors who spent years being dismissed, ignored, or labeled in ways designed to discredit them. It's about a journalist who refused to let a buried story stay buried. And it's about a world still waiting years later for the full truth to come out. The files may be sealed, some names may never be confirmed, but the survivors are real. The crimes were real, and the questions are still very much alive.